How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. We've got a tier list for you all today, but before we get into it, as always, make sure you guys like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Helps me out greatly. We saw recently on First Touch the guys try to make a tier list for teams that are of major quality or teams that are in the conversation towards the top of the RLCS. And with that, I don't need to really explain it. They kind of messed up, in my opinion. They have more teams in S tier than they do in A tier or anything else. I don't think that's how tier lists are supposed to work, but that's just my opinion. But they kind of messed up in that regard. So I figured what we're going to do today is we're going to fix this. We're going to provide the 16 teams going to the major. We're going to leave out some of these other ones that aren't attending, unfortunately, for like Magnifico and stuff. I made my own tier list. I've got it here somewhere. There it is. And we've got our 16 teams that are going to be attending the major. I think we're going to start and kind of try to work our way down, and then we'll make some adjustments as I explain as to why I think these are the way that they are. And I think the only one that should be in S tier is K-Corp. K-Corp has been perfect. They have not lost a single regional. They have done the three-peat. Farah continues to not lose whatever team he coaches. He is on a, 8 event win streak. He has won all of spring and the major. He has won all of the world championship, and he has won all of the new split. Boy's goated. If Farah does no wrong, if he wins this major as well, greatest coach in RLCS history. I don't care what anybody says. Farah's doing a phenomenal job. Obviously, he's being paired with some very talented players, but at the end of the day, there's consistency there. But I don't know if you can put anybody else in S tier when they have yet to lose, and that applies to both NA and EU. Gibbs put out a really cool video asking which team was more favored. The Vitality team going into Worlds and stuff because they had yet to lose. Which one's more favored, that or KC? I would probably lean towards Vitality just because of the results with Zen and the hype around it. But I think on paper, just pure talent and otherwise, I personally probably lean on the side of K-Corp. I think this K-Corp team probably is more favored to go and do it all because from what we've seen, the play styles and everything else, they look the best. So I think K-Corp is in a tier above. I think they are beatable. And the ones below them are BDS, Vitality, and G2. I think as of right now, it's tough for me to put Gen G, and that kind of spoils a little bit next. It's tough for me to put Gen G there because while I did see Gen G, this most recent regional, prove that they are capable, I am basically a firm believer of consistency. I need to see it over time. Some people are going to be like, but Lawler, Vitality didn't look good until the... Vitality is also the reigning world champs and have proven that they have that capability. They got punched in the mouth, are adjusting to losing for the first time, and it's taking them time to bounce back. And they're doing that with a brand new coach in Fairy Peak who's never coached before. So I think that comes to the realities of that. I think my intentions with BDS have been pretty clear. I think they are only going to get better. I think as Jolly earns more reps and the team gets more exposure to it, they're going to continue to be that team. And they've proven that they're fully capable, taking K-Corp to 2 best-of-7s. One was a reverse sweep, and I think that has to do with some rookie feelings in the first time they played, and then in the grand finals as well, which could have went either way. So I think between these two teams, the conversations are there. Vitality, as I mentioned again, former world champs. I think they're learning what it's like to lose for the first time for those players as a team. Zen finally losing. That is something that we forget about as a rookie. So those types of conversations. Then we look at G2. G2, I think, has done a really good job. I think they play the most consistent in regards to the stylistic choices of what they're trying to do. My biggest curiosity for the major is, are these teams going to be able to recreate this play style on a live environment, in an environment that they're not familiar with? Are they going to boot camp as long? What that's going to look like. But I think on paper, G2 has all the talent they could ever want. And they still have a play style that I think is going to continue to try to be aggressive and play assertive versus sitting back and just kind of taking it, which is why I have some feelings towards Luminosity as well, and why I predicted them very early on to be a top 4 team in North America. I think along with Gen G, I think you put Falcons in there. I think Falcons, and I probably will do a further video on this, or maybe we'll just talk about it in this video. I think Falcons, Power, and Furia need to be given a bit more respect than what they're receiving. They are playing so well within their regions and controlling their own fate to the degree that is unbelievable. Power in particular, the worst they've performed, I think, is 4-2 in a series. Everything else is either a 3-0 or a 3-1, and it is pure domination from that roster. Falcons, yes, they've had some moments where they look close to Rule 1, but they've been utterly dominant you are taking team of the Twins, which were Rule 1 previously, that had a pretty solid performance to knock out V1 from the World Championship, and pairing that with TRK, who I also think is an absolute stud. Falcons on paper, as well as the results they're putting up, is incredible. I think Falcons, like, as much as people want to give Johnny Boy flack for his early, world rankings and stuff, he hasn't been too far off. And I think maybe the G2 one I would probably rate a little bit higher than he did initially. But I think for your top 5, until I see it wanting, I have faith in Jack and the guys to do some stuff on land. I think Genji's going to look a lot better than what people are probably expecting. But I think between these two, like, the conversation is there, and I think it's valid to have this as your top 5. I think G2 personally, probably a little bit better than Falcons, just due to what they have on their team. And yes, you can go take a look at previous results of what the V1 situation was like with Beast Mode and Daniel and everything else. But my goodness, like, Falcons, I think some respect definitely needs to put. Falcons and MENA is easily the 3rd best region. I think Sam is somewhat close behind that, but, like, do not take them lightly. Speaking of South America with Complexity and Furia, I have some conversations of where to put them. I think Furia is probably a little bit better, but it's going to be an interesting pop-off of how this looks. But Furia and Complexity as conversations, obviously both in North America, now in South America. And during the offseason, we talked about how, like, Crew and all these teams were rebuilding and making these super teams and how talented they were going to be, and they've come in and just smacked the region. Like, Furia's 1-2, Complexity's 1-1, and that's despite all these other teams reforming and consolidating and trying to get better, and they still come back and win to the ability that they do. I think Furia and Complexity are a lot better than what the public eye wants to give them credit for, and I don't know which one I want to put ahead. I'm going to go with Furia just due to results and based upon the talent they have. I think Trifino's a fucking beast, and apologies for the profanity, but, like, Trifino's really good, and there's a reason why they decided to go with him. I think this team has some potential. Like, you may get the upsets, like the win over Moist type moments. I'm very, very interested to watch Sam compete internationally, especially after the offseason and then into their current regionals and qualifiers that they've been doing. Like, there's been some pretty exciting moments. Overall, I think this is where things get tricky. I think Gentlemates is probably in the B or C. I think Gentlemates plays a really clean game. I think they do some things that, in particular, I'm like, you guys, by all means, obviously play the game well. You have a very structured play style, but the peaks, the above and beyond the moments is where they fall a little bit short. And that's where I have some of these other teams with the mechanical craziness, where, like, Falcons has some potential to really pop off. Genji obviously has a lot of potential to pop off. Furia, same thing. I have a hard time of putting them, like, I don't know where to put them in here. I would like to say, yes, they're a little bit higher, but I think they're going to give us stable play, and I think Itachi and those guys do not get enough credit for what they're building. Juicy on land has also proven that he can be a stud, and kind of got overshadowed by Joyo back when he was with Moist, but I look really excited to see how this one plays out. So I'm going to put Complexity down a little bit, and along with them, I think you can put in the Luminosities, the OGs, Power in particular as well. Rule 1, like, I think your C tier is going to have your most people. And then from here, I would like to say, you know what? Elevate, I'm going to choose to believe and go like this. The reason why I have these the way that I do. For Limitless, I think, let's call it what it is. Limitless has definitely built and has tried to improve their roster with bringing in Sweaty and doing what they can. But they're a team that I expect to find in the O2 round. And in the heads up, I'm going to choose to say that the other ones get better. And the reason why that's okay is because this is the first time that SSA is finally getting the opportunity to be exposed to international competition more than once a year. And maybe my opinion will change. Maybe when we get to Major 2 and we get to see them again and again and they get exposed by these top teams, they can bring that playstyle and that information back, just like we've seen OCE and Sam and MENA do throughout the years. Obviously, their player base isn't as big as others, but this is going to be an invaluable experience that they weren't able to get before. And that's okay. It takes time to build and grow and develop. And I, by all means, even last year at the World Championship during wildcards, which wildcards being gone is a massive, massive problem. I think you are starting to see them slowly show improvements, but it's going to be more and more difficult because of the fan base and the amount of players that they have. Again, it's just problematic. So I think overall, it's going to be a good thing for the top teams and the ones that do make it, but it's going to take some serious time before I can be like, you know what? You can beat OCE2. You can beat APAC. With APAC in mind, I think that Elevate team is heavily underrated. I'm very excited to see what Sphinx does. Young kid, youngest to ever play in LAN, is an absolute stud. He's hitting some really good mechanical shots. Will that same level of confidence happen on LAN in a new environment for the first time? Or is it going to be like some of these other kids as well, where it's like they just don't have any sense of like repercussion. They have no idea what consequences. They don't know they're not supposed to win, which is crazy. It was a statement that as an NFL fan for the Green Bay Packers, we had the youngest average age on a team since like 82 or 87 with the Buffalo Bills or something ridiculous. And they beat a favored team that was undefeated at home, heck the Cowboys, because I don't think they understood that like you statistically and everything else are not supposed to win this game. They don't know that like this is the reality of things. And you're seeing that kind of translate to some of these young kids in the past year or two since the circuit-based system has really taken off on LAN. These young kids that come in as rookies that are supposed to be nervous and not know what it's like they just don't get phased by it. It's pretty crazy. So eyes on Sphinx is a lot. Big win for them over Gaming Gladiators, who everybody expected was to be there. Shouts to LCT and his situation where he was kind of the odd man out and then rebuilt and has had success to make it. We're going to pair along with that, the KCP team. I do think they're no longer Kansas City Pioneers. They're Quick Trip Pioneers, something. I think they've got some 4-letter acronym. But with Pioneers, I don't know how to feel. The OCE2 has been notoriously weak. And I think it's going to come down to an interesting bracket series of head-to-head of what does for them between them and Elevate. I don't know what the playout's going to be out. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think they're still talented. I just don't know what we're going to get out of it when Power has been so dominant, which is why I give Power the nod above. With Rule 1, Rule 1's got some land vets. They've got some people that have been around for a long time. Nupo, however you say his name, as a rookie, was supposed to be part of the MENA roster before he got that year ban. And like, he's really good. I don't think anybody's doubting that. He's paired with 2 land veterans with Ahmad and Okhalid that are going to be able to help him through that. Selfishly, I really like the team, and there has been some inconsistencies, I think, while they have proven to be competitive, and despite dropping games to like the newly formed Doc and God, what's their name? Like Team, it's like Team Rock or something like that. But they're all 14, really young team. They have always found their way back into the grand finals. It is Team Rock. Okay, we were right about that. But like, they've always found their way back to the grand finals. There's resiliency, and that comes, I think, from the veteran status and the been there, done that kind of mentality of like, you know what, it's not over until it's over, which is why I also give credit to like the OGs squad. I think overall, like, I don't know how to completely place these consistently. I think right now OG's playing probably a little bit better. And you compare them. Otherwise, Power, like, I don't know how to form these in the order that I think is ideal, but based upon what I'm seeing, I think Rule 1 and all these teams, like in the 2-1, 1-2 rounds, are going to be make or break. It's going to be cutthroat as heck at the World Championship. It's going to be so scary to watch, and I, as a fan, am going to absolutely love it. So anytime I do my tier list, I want people to understand that like these teams are capable of beating these teams. These teams should beat these teams, but in a head-to-head, but there's always chance for upset. These teams, by all means, depending on what you're doing, if this goes according to plan, your top 8 would be heavily, all EU teams, 2 NA teams, 1 MENA team. Realistically, I could see one of these teams bouncing the other way, one SAM team going in. Like, it's going to come down to how Swiss is played, and we'll do predictions as well in the future, more closer to the actual event, just so it's more relevant. But like, Swiss, when it comes down to those 1-2, 1-1 rounds, like, they're going to be make or break for how the season goes for this event. Just same. It's the exact same of what we saw with Space Station and all the other conversations that have been going around. Like, who you get paired up with, how those matchups go, winning those matches convincingly and giving you an advantage as Swiss is going to be so important. So for the teams that are starting with the high seeds, a 3-0 is so important for the results and the matchups that you get, because favoring result, if you're both 1-0 and I'm saying, okay, K-Corp ends up winning their first round as expected, and they get to play an LG instead of a Falcons or a Gen G or something like that, like, I'm telling you, it's going to make a huge difference. It's going to make such a difference at LAN. So I don't know what the schedule is either. I don't know if we are going to see where teams, if they go 2-0, get a day break and then they don't come and play again until Saturday, or what that exactly looks like. But we've seen that be good and we've seen that be bad. So it's going to be interesting, but that's what I've got. I've got some very interesting in the middle of the pack stuff going on. and hopefully that that sorting of things makes a little bit more sense. But overall, man, let's call it what it is. LAN International for the first time is going to be super exciting. I'm really pumped to watch these teams in action. I've said this multiple times. I don't think Copenhagen's going to be like crazy results, or like I don't think it's going to be the greatest LAN in Rocket League history. Blast is having to pivot to this last minute in their backyard and trying to figure things out. I doubt there's going to be any above and beyond with team boosts or any of that kind of stuff. Like, it's going to be pretty straightforward. You're there for Rocket League. You're there to watch the games, and that's what it's there to happen. I'm excited to watch the production, see what that looks like. But overall, I'm very interested to see on how these results go. Expect some upsets. I think there's a couple teams in here that, like OG, that I didn't touch on as much, can definitely play some upset. They've got 3 veterans, all who have a ton of experience, have tasted victory before. Like, they could surprise some people. And I think when you look at play styles like Luminosity is a team that likes to be a bit more assertive, a little bit more aggressive. If they can translate that onto LAN when people are a little bit more uncomfortable, it might open up some opportunities. OG, playstyle wise, can't just rely on JNaps to put on his knapsack and do what he does. But on LAN, it opens up some opportunities for that to happen. Like, teams don't play as good on LAN. That's just a reality. Go look at previous World Championships. Gameplay isn't as good as you see online. That's expected. So I think for some of these teams that are foundationally built, that work very much so on working as a team and stuff like that, like they tend to look a little bit better. So very interested to see on how these things go. But at the end of the day, it's all speculation. We'll have to wait and see until they get on the field. But with that in mind, hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Let me know what you guys think. Who are your top teams down below? What do you have for the shiftings? Maybe we need to swap some things. Maybe you guys are a little bit higher on some of these teams like Power. Let me know in the comments down below. With that, enjoy the content. Like, subscribe, notifications like I mentioned. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.